God, that engineering quote. Not played the game since 2000, but I still recall both that and Einstein's selection quotes clear as day. I don't remember many of the other Command & Conquer ones, I just remember engineering. Engineering. Affirmative. Democracy returns to Italy. Surprising news came from Italy today as the now former Duce Galeazzo Ciano announced his resignation and the dissolution of the National Fascist Party of the PNF. These actions of Ciano, while surprising to the uninitiated, are what experts agree is the culmination of the long decay of fascism in Italy that began before the death of Mussolini. This decay was undoubtedly accelerated by Ciano, who sought to dissolve the old system as he saw that would only bring ruin to Italy given time. While there are those in Italy who still oppose this, Ciano's victory at the Verona conference gave him the necessary mandate to ignore and sideline his opponents, leaving very little official opposition to his implementation of democracy. The Italian people now prepare for their first elections in decades, and it's already obvious that there is much excitement throughout Italy at this prospect. As fascism dies where it was born, the world looks on to see just who will become the first leader of this new Italy. Democracy shines in the Mediterranean once more. Medic! Yeah, that's true. I do remember that one too. And yeah, Tanya. Cha-ching! Being a certain sound effect that we have here on the channel. Cheaper housing. Right, let's get the Housing Act through and we'll see what the vote is like. Because right now I think that, well, we won in Parliament, which would suggest that we have the most MPs. Our new Housing Act, built on the consultation with all parties affected from landlords to the homeless, is a major step forwards in making housing affordable to everyone. By using some of our funds to subsidise housing development, setting caps on rent and requiring certain standards to be met for all new projects, we'll move much closer to giving everyone a roof over their heads. Perhaps one day everyone can have not just a place to lay their head, but a place they can proudly call home. What a weird dream. Actually owning houses. Weird. It'll never catch on. Oh, I'm actually in deficit now. Because of the trinket spending. Damn it! Pakistan becomes independent. Since India clinched its independence from the grip of chaos following the Second World War, it has been considered something of a powder keg to international observers. Marred by issues of ethnicity, religion, ideology and circling foreign vultures, the upstart nation has had much on its plate. Specifically brutal amongst these problems was the infamous division between the Hindus and the Muslims, a state of affairs that has finally, albeit chaotically, been resolved today. Fearful of perpetual Hindu domination, the northern Muslim minority has seceded in its entirety, declaring a new state known as Pakistan. Migrations to and from Pakistan have begun in earnest across the subcontinent, as have the particularly brutal incidents of violence. Spectators are divided on this development, with some worried that the increasing violence gripping the region, and others praising a solution the long issue of religious tension. Time will tell what the reaction India and her neighbours will exert. Interesting. Yeah, these are getting worse again. They were down to 1 point something. So it looks like there is a continual decay on this stuff, unfortunately. So maybe once we hit 100, we'll try the other two. We are going to go ground formation disruption. Although, I should double check something. Because if we go over to the Air Force, which is over here... 2 air doctrines. Two more air doctrines. So we have 4 air doctrines potentially coming through. So we probably don't want to be working on those right now. Yeah, that would be the 4th. So let's cancel this and switch ourselves over to something else. For example, flamethrowers for the engineers, seeing as we have engineers everywhere. Free civilian factories. Ah, the infrastructure was completed. So we've got Sussex is getting one. So we can get one more. Oxfordshire is getting one. East Anglia could do with some more. Wiltshire is too small. And Yorkshire is getting 2? I don't remember. Yorkshire gets 1. So let's build up Yorkshire to an 8. And in fact, we'll do Yorkshire next. We won't do Sussex just yet. Yeah. Okay, Housing Act. So there is now a campaign going on. Which we will deal with in a moment. And as part of that, I think that building the nation is going to be the next step. And we'll get the education reform and everything going. Oh, that's monthly job growth. Okay, maybe joblessness and domestic... So where is this tracked? Let's do it. As the English Civil War is drawn to a close, we are now free to focus on the economic recovery as well as our political situation. So far, the data is dire. We must begin to reconnect with those who have been turned out by the war, and those who have lost their jobs against the ravages of the conflict. After we have assessed the status of our economy from an employment perspective, we can begin to propose programs and special government action. This might involve some wrangling of party functions, but surely we can come together to rebuild our country and get England working again. So currently we have 217 MPs voting for the Housing Act. One of the biggest issues facing England currently is housing. A small number of landowners control most of the houses, which causes overpricing. This act regulates land prices with government housing programs, building new houses as well as renovating old ones. This will hopefully result in more affordable housing for England's poor, but we can't just let people live without a roof over their heads. So most of the moderates and most of the liberals support this already. We could really do with bringing in some of the Socialist Labour Party. Oh, that's really expensive. And supporting the moderates, I think, does make the most sense. So how many do we need? We need like 250, basically. I think it's actually 249. 248 is what we need. So even if we got more of the moderates on board, we're going to need to work with the SLP in some extent. Let's do that. 60 days. When is the actual vote? Oh, it's in 60 days. Huh. I think you have to click on the states to see the job status. That's what I thought as well, but hang on. Unemployment 0.2. Okay, so yes, they do track that. So I guess that the GDP will rise the more jobs they have. I mean, that does make sense. And I do want GDP to rise so we can tax them. I mean, that's one of the main reasons you want to get jobs going. One of the main reasons to invest in an economy. Get the job sector going again. Okay, so if we don't boost the civilian economy, then we are actually making money again. However, if we are boosting it, then we're building more. And the more we build, the more factories we get. The more factories we get, the more GDP we get. So let's build some more. A caramel-coloured wave. In a massive new facility in Sidcup, South London, the first bottles are loaded onto trucks to go out all across London and southern England. They're loaded onto shelves, and as soon as the doors open, they're gone. And the trucks go back to bring out more to a first eager population. Coca-Cola has not been available legitimately in England since the Second World War. Some bottles have been smuggled in through Scotland or Wales, but that was never available in the wider market. But with the end of the trade embargo between the US and England, Coke is back. It is back with a massive investment by Atlanta-based company. Coke is undoubtedly pleased with the strong reception in London and has plans to open up other bottling facilities in Leeds, Nottingham and Peterborough to cater to the English demand. The carbonated beverage will soon be available in all corners of England, along with a new concoction the company is pushing called Sprite, teaching England to sing. Freedom water. Siberian Black Army has defeated the Federation of Novosibirsk and Altai. And Russia is turning black. The Siberian Black Army unifies Central Siberia. Sporadic news reports and announcements coming from Central Siberia have confirmed that the region has fallen under the control of a previously obscure entity known as the Siberian Black Army. Based on the teachings of Nestor Manko and from the days of the Russian Civil War, a society following militarized anarchism has formed, where the population was not protected by the state but by local militia, and their commanders were to protect the communes and their anarchist system. This ideology, first adopted in the lands between Central Siberian Republic and the Genrik Yagoda's Supreme Soviet, as both governments collapsed, has now been asserted over the entirety of the CSR's former territory by use of armed force by this new Black Army, despite all the challenges that such a system have introduced. A return that few anticipated. Previously restrained by the will of the despots, the Kazakh phoenix rises anew as a beacon of liberty and democracy in the steppes. First President of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Sabit Mukhanov, in an appeal to the country, congratulated his fellow citizens with the victory over tyranny and ignorance and proclaimed the first reunification of the Kazakh nation under a democratic rule, envisioning a prosperous future for the homeland after the long years of bitter infighting and senseless bloodshed. A lamb amongst a pack of wolves, the newly founded republic announced its desire for international recognition and cooperation with the democratic powers. Time will tell if Kazakhstan can break away from the prolonged isolation. It seems that sometimes peace and freedom can survive in this world. Just sometimes though. The Indonesian War. We prefer independence with poverty to servitude with plenty. Free Indonesia declared war on Indonesia. This is the second war, isn't it? The first one was... No, the Dutch were already gone. I think. Yeah, they would have been. This was Japanese held. Right. Deal with the bosses. Or creating more jobs in the north. I mean, actually, both of those sound rather good. Ooh, and also more GDP growth. That sounds awesome. While we do not intend to give our country over to the interests of large capitalist institutions, their help is necessary in revitalising our economy, ensuring that we can recover from the war. We can hand out vital projects with ample government funding for national recovery that will get big business on our side. The people happy and working and the nation ready for the future. We will, of course, remain careful to avoid a descent into corporate cronyism, and there will be an oversight of these projects to make sure that they are fulfilling our expectations. Also, I need to remember to actually press these buttons. So there's only 16 votes for the Liberals available, and 26 from the Conservatives, so unfortunately we do have to go to the Patriots for this one. 433. We need just a few more. I have a really bad feeling we're going to need to do a compromise with the socialists. What I should probably have done was liberals and socialists rather than patriots. Oh well. We had already tugged the liberals one side, so these now are completely imbalanced once again. No, we're still a monarchy. Queen Elizabeth's still in charge, but again, England's a constitutional monarchy, which means Parliament's still around. The Queen can technically veto Parliament, but it said that the next vote to go up to Parliament would then be the dissolution of the monarchy, so it's a power that hasn't been used since Queen Victoria. Basic artillery, done. So 1970 is the next set of artillery. We could upgrade them for the extra soft attack, and I think that's probably a good move. Let's do that. 20 days. I am not sure that this is going to pass. Right, let's create some more jobs in the north. Even before the Civil War, the northern parts of England struggled due to the cuts in government funding and projects. No government member wanted to associate with such a rebellious region, and so employment and growth lagged behind the south. Heavy fighting did not improve the situation, and now infrastructure and housing are a significant problem. Now that the Civil War is over and we face less pressure from Germany, we can begin to push more funding towards these left-behind areas and help them to once more become the industrial heart of England. Also bearing in mind that the resistance was basically based in the north, so we should definitely invest in that. As far as I know, passing bills in Parliament is so obtuse it's impossible to know whether they'll pass or not. Well, that's good to know. And also, something keeps on ticking, and I keep on missing it. I don't know what that is, but I have a feeling that's why my political power keeps on disappearing. Because I feel like I should have a heck of a lot more than I ever do. I think we're going to be able to compromise with the Liberals, and then that's it. And we're only just going to be able to do it. As long as nothing else spends my political power in the meantime. Victory for Democrazia Cristiana! In the first democratic elections for Italy since the 1920s, the centrist party, the Democrazia Cristiana, has managed to secure a majority of seats in Parliament. Former university president Aldo Moro was chosen as the new prime minister of the country, promising to ensure a peaceful and prosperous democratic future for Italy, and maintaining a friendly relationship with the leftist coalition, the Fronte Democratico. The right-wing coalition, the Blocchi Nazionali, has sworn fierce opposition to the new government, but their numbers in Parliament don't allow them much power. Catholic, liberal and progressive, Moro has already achieved high popularity amongst the Italian population. The DC's plans include reforming the education system, liberalising the economy, while expanding welfare reforms and ending the remnants of fascist policies. Moro's victory is a final step in Italy's process of democratisation, and the Prime Minister has received congratulations from leaders of all of the countries of the free world. Well done! Oh, I can go to the moderates again. Let's see, there are 20 votes available to the moderates. And there are only 16 to the liberals, so we're going to go to the moderates for the second time. 239. Again, we need like 240 something to win this. We're as close as we could reliably be. Passes. Okay. An elderly man sat on a bench reading the local newspaper. The front page reads of the affairs of Westminster. Around him, the streets were slightly livelier, the skies were becoming slightly clearer. News had spread that a new Act of Parliament had passed through the House of Commons and become part of the law of the land. News anchors on live television discussed the ramifications of this recent development. Politicians declared this day as a major success for their party and the country of England. The future of millions of men and women will be affected by this law even if they never hear of it. Only time will tell whether that's for the better or the worse. Every owned state will experience a medium increase in the economic output of domestic jobs. Every owned state, NDL, New Whigs, Democrats and Patriot support will increase. English history is written. And the moderates took back a little bit of power from these two. That's good. I don't like those votes. They are really scary. There was one area where there were loads of them. Over here, I think. Yeah, these two. In fact, all three of these. The Conservatives being on the left side of that scale upsets me greatly. I know, it's a little bit weird. Alright, jobs in the north, done. So we could do this one. So do we want to go into the new phase, which will increase our stability? Or do we want to start building up the nation again? I mean, this will increase our construction speed and our factory output, and then also puts more resources on market, which I think is fine. I don't know that we're actually trading with many people. Yeah, we're not. So being free market ain't going to really affect us that much, but then again, we're also not using those resources, so we may as well. This will also open up trade with the French state, Iberia, and Sweden. Our dependence on trade with the United States has been both a historical weakness and a vital artery. During the Second World War, our failure to defend this trade cost us dearly. During the English Civil War, it was one of the few avenues we had to acquire food and manufactured goods from abroad. Now that the Germans no longer have control over who we can and cannot trade with, we must reopen this vital trade partnership. Surely the Americans will be amenable to such a proposal. It's nothing personal. It's just good business. Oh, right, yeah, we can just speak to those two. So I think for the next vote, we need to make sure that we have a lot more political power available, which basically means abandoning the army for the moment. I don't think that we can juggle all of these different balls at the same time and actually get what we need done. Imagery wants me to drink some tea. Okay, then. Engineering completed. However, we can get bigger, better flamethrowers. That sounds reasonable to me. Now, do we have recon in these units? Yes. Currently just recon companies. I'm actually wondering if we want to replace those with helicopter recon. With helicopter support and all of that stuff. Because we do have a lot of helicopter buffs. How do you tolerate the UI? I don't mind it. I know a lot of people are really, really turned off by it, but it doesn't bother me in the slightest. As long as I can use it, it's fine. Okay, so we can focus on the OFN, which means trade with the OFN increases. Production efficiency goes up, production efficiency base goes up, resources to market goes up, but trade deal opinion factor also goes up. Or we can start trading with these guys. Well, I think we'll do with the OFN first. The Organization of Free Nations is our greatest ally. Just as they help us militarily, we can help them economically. We shall expand our trade operations in the OFN member nations, especially the United States, and in so doing, we shall improve our own economy. Seems reasonable. Oh man, GDP is growing rapidly now. 1.4 up from 0.4, up from -5. We are still in deficit, however, but I think right now with the level of spending and the rate of GDP growth, it's fine. In fact, how much is that in real terms? So we currently have 40 billion. That's annual growth. So what is 1.4% of 40 billion? $560 million. So that is higher than the deficit. So yeah, that works. Our GDP is rising faster than debt. Cool. Yeah, we don't have any helicopters yet, that's true. But we can get them. Foxen, thank you again for the bits. Appreciate that. And poverty is now, improving rapidly. That's good. Military austerity has ended. Well, keep it going. And how is our construction going right now? We're getting a lot of factories built. This is awesome. And in fact, I feel like we're going to be in a position where we actually need to build more civilian factories soon. Queue up Yorkshire too. Focusing the OFN. Expansion into Free Europe. Yeah, that seems to be fine to me. While Spain and France may not be the most democratic nations, they are somewhat free from the grip of the German Reich. Alongside these nations, we can also expand trade into Scandinavia and the Balkans. We can improve our economy and increase our influence in Europe at the same time. Republic of China declared war on the National Protection Army. Now, what were the send you to America again? Medium increase the economic output of domestic jobs. For how long? Don't know. Hungary sides with Germany. Hungarian diplomats have finally finished talks with that will cement their place in the pact. Under immense pressure from their northern neighbours, the Hungarians had no choice but to concede to German demands to fall back in line. The Italians are outraged, accusing the Germans of instigating political violence and destabilising the country. Their delegations have fallen back to Rome to regroup and plan for their next course of action. Actually, I just remembered I need to double check something before I go further here. Let me just see where it is. Yeah, that's fine. Suddenly thought I had a schedule clash, but I don't. It's all good. It's all good. Fun things are happening. The West Russian Revolutionary Front has defeated the Komi Republican War, and we got the 50s artillery and also more flamethrowers. Coincidence? Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so we are doing recon, but this is just ground-based recon. However, if we do Hephalopters and get these, which will cost, is that aluminium? No, that's, yeah, aluminium. We have a little bit of aluminium. We don't have a huge amount of it. So helicopters might actually be a little bit of a difficult one for us to invest in. Especially because our aircraft cost steel. No, that's also aluminium. So I'm not convinced that we actually have the resource output for helicopters. I don't think we do. We just have so many modifiers for this, though. Ah, sod it. We're still going to do it. So we might not do ground-based helicopters, but we should probably have attack helicopters. They sound interesting. Got a Harrier. It's like a Halo. I mean, we have Harriers, I think. So that's that then, said Stevus. I'll be delivering our application to the President 2 days from now, and the rest of the OFN after that. That's the plan, said Jellicoe. We have the necessary requirements, strategically placed, free and democratic, and able to carry out our own way. Isn't that what the OFN wants? We offer them a lot, and they should be happy to have us. But there's this doubt. What if they don't? It would be ridiculous, but it might happen. Of course it's bloody ridiculous, agreed Powell. A rare response for Stevus. We're Britain, aren't we? Well, how can they play the part of the Allies without us? It just don't make any sense. They need us just as an ego boost, if nothing else. Correct, said Jellicoe. They can work with us and have access to the North Sea and missiles 15 minutes from Germania. Or they won't, and have to operate everything from Iceland. It's as simple as that. We'll be fine. The Americans aren't idiots. Please prove that in November. Please. Expansion into free Europe. So now we can make the trade agreements with Italy, and considering Italy is now going very democratic, that's probably a good idea. Italy's government is vastly different to ours, but that isn't important right now, regardless of ideology, which they are actually democratic. Italy hasn't had good relations with Germany for almost 2 decades, making them a bulwark against German expansion. If we sign some trade agreements with the Italian government, we may be able to sway them closer to our side. And the... oh no, they don't control the oil anymore. Decolonized. But they still have influence over there because of the Italian oil conglomerate thing. I was going to increase civilian spending. The Committee for the Liberation of the Peoples of Russia have defeated Vyatka. Oh. The Americans are just alternate smart. Can we prove that in November by voting none of the above? Please don't. Because that's basically... I don't want to say a wasted vote, but it's a wasted vote. And you kind of got to decide which of them deserves the job more. What to do with foreign jobs? We still have an enormous trade dependence upon the United States and the rest of the OFN, and some of our members have grown uncomfortable with the numbers of jobs being shipped overseas to those nations. Furthermore, there are many Americans here in England who say they are taking jobs away from the hard-working Englishmen and women. Bullshit. The more liberal elements of the party maintain that such trade is necessary and that economic ties with the Americans furthers our national security interests. We must find a way to diffuse the tensions on both sides regarding this vital economic issue before the complaints boil over. Okay, so our oil supplies have recovered really nicely. I think I'm still going to wait until they're filled, and then we'll just turn off oil import again, completely. But I'm pretty happy with the direction of the economy right now. We're up to 60 factories, we're rapidly producing more. And the more we get after that. And that's all going to be contributing to GDP growth. The battle for Italy. After the collapse of the Triumvirate, the Italian nation was left with very few allies. Despite its central position in the Mediterranean, for the most part Italy remained alone, and seemed to stay that way for a long time. However, both the OFN and the co-prosperity sphere have recently been making overtures to the Italians in an attempt to align them with their spheres of influence. While these overtures were very quiet at one point, the realization that a rival was also attempting to convince the Italians to their side has made both the Americans and the Japanese much more open and public in their attempts to win over the Italians. International relations experts agree that the prize of Italy is quite bountiful, with their control over a large amount of the world's oil supply, combined with their control over the Suez Canal, which would give either alliance an incredibly powerful foothold in the Mediterranean. Of course, the Germans watch these negotiations with bitterness, as this will give one of the great power blocks of the world a direct border with the Reich itself. Could Italy be the tipping point in this Cold War? Alright, the question of foreign versus home jobs. Recently, Parliament has been embroiled in a debate on whether the new government would prioritise the growth of foreign or domestic jobs. Opinions on what direction this should take has split the NDL down factional lines. Surprisingly, both Minister Williams and MP Powell both agree on prioritising domestic job growth, and their respective factions are likely to follow along with either of them. Both acknowledge the effects of this would not be seen for some time. However, both argue that would ensure England's economic independence and strengthen her in the long run. Foreign Minister Stavas argues that the short-term growth found by bringing in foreign jobs is essential to England's economic recovery, even if much of that growth would be tied to foreign interests. Although the left and the right factions accuse Stavas of selling out the OFN and have rallied together to oppose this notion, they only have enough combined votes to stall a vote. Deputy Minister Eccles and his small pro-status quo faction are currently undecided and could be a deciding vote. As usual, it falls to you, Earl, to unite the party. I don't think you would ever refer to someone as Earl. As usual, it falls to you, George, to unite the party. Or Earl Jellicoe. It would be Earl Jellicoe. It wouldn't just be Earl. As usual, it falls to you, Earl Jellicoe, to unite the party. Perhaps some words to Parliament would sway the winds one way or another. So, for the good of England, we must open ourselves to new opportunities, or England should place her own needs above the profit of others. I'm either going to be very pleased with you, chat, or very disappointed in you, depending on how you vote here. Alright, here we go. Fingers crossed. Vote, vote, vote. Get your votes in. Can I sell my vote? I think that would be a good move. I mean, it's just good business. Seems entirely reasonable. Get ready for another referendum. Ah, don't. How the hell is this so close? There's only one proper answer here. If it ends 52-48, I'll shit a brick. If it ends on that, I'll probably just end the stream. A lot of protectionists buying votes thinking there's a limited amount to go around. Yeah. Good. I am pleased to see that chat is... I said I would.